Alright, welcome back, awesome people of the internet. Now, we just scouted out the first part of this camp, this dome that we're going to overtake, and we are slowly sneaking over to try and incapacitate, not kill, but just like beat the crap out of all the bystanders that are here. Now, before I continue, I want to make sure that I loot this body here and see what they have. Worker shoes. Alright. Now, we did level up in the last episode, so we're going to start putting in points, and I'm going to tell you our first goal is to get to here, which will allow us to fire a lot more, and we'll get a lot more out of our guns. It's going to be a huge upgrade with a gun that we're going to be picking up at the end of this tutorial mission, but we're going to need to sink about 3 points. Our first one's going to go into upgrade slash. This is not a very wise one, because what this means is that every time while you're attacking with the left click, you have just a 1 in 3 chance of just dodging the attack. Now, as you can see, that's a really, really dangerous way to go, because most of the time, you're only going to miss the attack 1/3 of the time. So the majority of the time, you're going to take the hit. It's far better, instead of relying on this, to just dodge out of the way. So, I mean, it'll come in handy occasionally when I miss an attack and I get hit anyway, but it encourages a playstyle that we're not going to be following. So hopefully we can get some more points in quickly.
There are looters gathered at the dome's entrance, a lot of them, but they're not equipped to be more than a nuisance.
Take care nonetheless, Zachariah. That guard there, separated from his group. Sneak on him and the battle will be easily won.
So this is the stealth tutorial. Stealth is one of the professions that you can build up. However, I don't advise it, because the damage that you do, it doesn't even knock them out, like here, as you saw earlier. It doesn't even do half damage. And it'll drain one whole bar out of your fluid. Yeah, that's what it's called, fluid. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are instead saving it to use for this. It'll do actually about the same damage at this point. And it's just a lot more useful that way. One thing that I failed to mention is that our passive electric ability not only gives a damage boost, but as you can see there, it gives a chance to just electrocute them passively. And then we'll be upgrading it later as we go on. But we're going to be focusing a lot on guns first, and then as we continue, we are going to pick up some points and put a lot more into the Technomancer skill. Because we are going to be focusing mostly on a ranged approach to combat. Now, I don't know. Okay, so right here is a loot pile. You'll see these in the forms of trash cans, refuse heaps, and other things like that. These actually recharge over time, but since we only come here twice in the whole game, it doesn't matter. But later on when we see them, we can use them to harvest and actually get a renewable source of resources that we can use for crafting or money generation. But hopefully it'll never come to that point, and we'll just instead be able to generate most of our money from what we get from our adventures and what we are getting off the bodies of all the people that we're attacking. And see here, I'm just trying to be as careful as possible. When your gun is glowing red like that, obviously it means that you can't use it. So we're just trying to keep our distance, play safe, and do as much as we can from a safe distance. We can get about 3 shots off before it overheats. That'll be changing quite quickly. I think the most important part is just to play safe. On the highest difficulty, you can find yourself just getting slammed out of nowhere. It only takes a couple of hits. So the most important thing is just to be safe and focus on positioning and survivability rather than getting as much damage in as you can. And luckily, as you noticed with our companion Sean here, he can't die, so he's the perfect tank. Our allies later on they'll be a lot less durable than he is, but that does give us a little bit of insurance, at least in this first part, that no matter how bad it is, we can always just fall back and let Sean take care of him. And he will kill them eventually, but he doesn't do the greatest amount of damage. Now, if I remember correctly, there's a super important item in here that we have to make sure that we pick up before we continue on. Not in here. I believe it's off one of the bodies. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So this is the first piece of headgear that we can put on, and it's a very important piece of that. It gives us an extra point in exploration, and that stacks with the point that we already have. So now we have 2 in exploration, which is huge. So now we have a 20% chance of finding more loot, which means we're more likely to find some really, really good items that we can use before we can even buy them or use them from the merchants that we're going to find later on. And that really is essential. Like that first point, we're going to be spreading ourselves out pretty across the board. Like we're going to have at least 1 point in all the professions except for stealth. But at the very beginning, we really want to get that as high as possible because we're going to get more items, which means more money, which also means more crafting. And crafting is the other really important profession. Later on, you can find raw gear on its own, that's okay. But with crafting, you can actually bring it to the full potential, and that's going to be extremely important for really getting the most out of our survivability and our offensive power. But for right now, we're doing just fine. Just dodging back and forth, focusing on getting as much out as we can as possible. We hit level 3, so let me put the next point down. Okay, so what this does, this lets us just shoot more quickly. Like this. See, so they remove the delay, which is really important, because that lets us get the attack out quicker, roll quicker, get more in row. Very important. Just talking real quick about the stab, it actually has a much shorter range than the slash, so you really have to be careful when you're using it. But the extra damage you get, right now it's not worth it, but later on, once we start working with it, it'll actually be quite formidable. Now this part right here is actually the hardest part in the tutorial area. If you're not careful, it's very easy to just get wiped out here. So what I recommend is using these stairs here as like a defensive position and just funneling them up like this. And most importantly, just being aware of your surroundings and trying not to let yourself get overrun. And see, you can dodge out of the slash. If you roll before your first bullet goes off, you won't use any fluid. But after the first shock, you don't get any fluid back if you cancel out of it like that. It's more important to lose the fluid and not take the hit. And this is really what makes the dagger and gun style so powerful, is that you have so much mobility. Whoop. And this guy's got a gun, so he can very easily just destroy us if I'm not careful. So hopefully we'll be able to... Okay, there we go. And if we get lucky, he has a chance of dropping something that's really, really going to help us out. But he might not. Let's see. Well, he didn't drop... He dropped something useful, but it's not the useful thing that I'm looking for. But that's totally fine. Now that is just a flat-up upgrade to what we're using right now. I'm lying. It's the exact same thing. But just talking real quick about with weapons, you can either sell these at a merchant, or if you go to a workshop where you can break down items, you can actually break down the weapons you pick up for raw resources. Now we normally won't be doing that because we really we'll be getting enough stuff from the environment, but there's a couple of items that we can pick up that actually have some rare components that we can't get a hold of yet, and we need those rare components to build some upgrades for our weapons. It's not the end of the world if we don't get them, but we really want to make sure that at some point we do get access to those items. Oh, and I should mention something very important. So if you ever see full in the name. It's really important that you don't throw that away. What full means is that it's going to be a bigger item and it's going to have more upgrade slots. And more upgrade slots means you can put more attachments on it and do more with it, which will make a huge difference later on when our crafting and our upgrades get more powerful. Right now, it doesn't make the biggest difference, but later on, it will make a huge difference. Now, with a raw... Even though it does give us a bonus to crafting and 2 more to our physical resistance, the fluid regeneration we get from this cadet jacket I think is more powerful, at least for now. We'll be switching it out once we find some better armor, but for now we'll just hold on to it. And now we got the locust. These things are super easy. They go down in one shot. So we don't even really have to worry about them. The staff is an excellent way to combat them. And...
What do you mean? Am I not ready?
Let's wait till after this dialogue.
You're ready, Zachariah. With that, there is no doubt. I worry about you and care for your happiness. Once you become a Technomancer, there's no going back. You lose your freedom. From the moment our abilities are brought into the light, to the moment the light is snuffed from our eyes, the Technomancers are nothing but pawns on a chessboard. We have no free will. Abundance forces its will on us. I think about the future, how hard it will become as the ASC rises in power. Perhaps I'm just being paranoid. Forgive your master's little spell. You must focus on more important things.
And as you could see back there, you can actually skin these animals.
It is the same as that in our chapel. Accessible only to the combined energies of 2 Technomancers.
Anyway, before they talk anymore, what you could see there, because those were beasts, I could skin them and I was getting poor leather off it. Now the leather it's not that useful for crafting, we'll find a lot of it all over the place, but it's actually giving us a really good source of income that we can sell off later for just a little bit more pocket money. So if we need the money early on, which we might, that's just another benefit to going for the exploration and getting 2 points in it.
Here lies the entrance, and beyond, the main room, where we must go.
For being so old, it's in great condition. What exactly, Master, is inside the dome?
Knowledge, Zach. The very essence of knowledge, even.
Now, with these locusts up here, you want to take out the green ones first, because they can spit venom at you. They spit mad rhymes, yo. So you really want to make sure you eliminate them first, because they're the only real threat. And now you can pretty much just spin to win, using the staff to clear them out. One hit takes them.
Creatures do not belong here. Their very presence is a danger to the relics. We must seek out their origin. I remember well the first time I came here. I was fascinated. I really thought I was part of an elite. I've become disillusioned since then. If all this knowledge indeed gives us some sort of power, we're still faced with so many obstacles that we can't do anything with it. It's more of a danger for us than a tool.
Yeah, he's getting kind of rhetorical. Kind of spacey with it, but that's okay. Because we are here on a mission sent to become the most powerful Technomancer. And if that means doing some pest control, then so be it. Now, there's a lot of chests hidden in the alcoves here, and you want to make sure you check them out, because every little bit counts, especially at the beginning, and we can't afford to just walk away from what could potentially lead to something really good. You'll see in this game, chests in particular are actually kind of a big disappointment. You won't see a lot of good items dropping from them, at least until later, like much later. But the crafting components that we're going to get from them are still really important. And we have to make sure that what kind of a helpful guide video would this be if I didn't show you where all these little chests were? Although, upon saying that, I'm sure I'm going to miss a couple. But that's okay.
This is the main room. The console over there. Activate it and heed its words.
Witness registration, March 17th, 2076. Subject 12. The subject appears acclimatized, pulse elevated but steady, unaffected by any visible health concerns. James, how do you feel?
Great. So alive. My heart's racing, and I feel like I can take on the world. And I'm being honest here, it's a bit overwhelming.
Subject self-report is consistent and substantiated with our measurements of him and other subjects, all of whom produce EEGs indicating activity levels acutely higher than any ever associated with a human not subjected to mutation. The only adverse side effect, it appears, is the near tenfold increase in corporeal and cerebral electricity. Dangerous levels that will necessitate the urgent invention of a device capable of evacuating such surplus in order to avoid subject injury.
This man talking about technomancy, about mutations, as if... I can't believe.
And yet it still might be so. This recording dates to the first settlers. Speaks of the first Technomancers. Shocking, perhaps? Where did you think our abilities came from? A divine power?
I don't... But we have no physical signs of mutation, and I don't know any mutant that has our gifts.
And why should any of those things matter? Might not our mutation simply be of a different form? This brings us to the most important point. What you have seen unifies us, unifies the Technomancers. This secret must be kept from all other humans. If this information was discovered by, say, the ASC, we would become nothing but slaves. Our situation is already incredibly undesirable. We are not only isolated, but used as human bombs. Take a walk by the mutant pen in the slums one day. That is what our lives could have been. Don't be dismayed. I have been through this as well, so have all the other Technomancer officers in abundance. Knowledge of this revelation makes you one of us now, more so than your skills. But now is time to deal with the creatures infesting the dome. It would be a real shame if the installations here are damaged, for we will no longer be able to hold initiation trials here.
Yes, of course, Master. I haven't found an opening yet, so... they must have reached lower in the dome.
Then that's where we must go. I will divert the attention of these creatures. At the base of the dome, you will find an entry point. If you have swarmed here, they must have dug a passage.
I'm up.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of clarification there, the reason why it would be bad to find out that they're actually mutants and not purebreed humans is because in Abundance, the corporation that Zach's a part of, they treat mutants basically as, like, not even citizens, just as complete slaves. And the fear is that once they find out that they're mutants, that they would lose their citizenship and basically just, yeah, really, really bad things would happen. So a running theme throughout the game is going to be that secret and keeping that secret just to inside the Technomancer circles. We did level up there, so we're going to pick up the skill that we need. Our gun is going to overheat more slowly, and that's going to make a huge difference. Before, we could fire off 3 shots. Now we should be able to fire off at least 4. 5. Excellent. That's almost twice as many. And if that doesn't seem to be a huge difference, just wait. Just wait. We're going to be picking up a gun that actually can overheat even slower than the one that we're using right now. So we'll be able to get in like 6 shots, I believe. Maybe even more. But that's only the first part to our path to being an awesome, I guess, gunslinger. But since each one of these shots takes out one of them at a time, that's instead of 3, that's like 5 that we're going to be killing in one time. Then we're going to... Looks like that one followed. Whenever you see it slow down and go into slow-mo like that, that means that it is a critical hit. And then critical hits do, I think, even a little more than double damage. It's hard to tell because enemies also have physical resistance. So you're not going to be ever going to be doing the full damage of your hit. And the other thing about guns is that you don't actually get the electrify bonus that you do with the other weapons. It only electrifies the dagger. So that's something to keep in mind. There is a way to make the shield electrified, but since we're not going to be focusing on that... Oh, since I'm talking about the shield, this is actually pretty important. As you saw, we were able to block the attacks and not take any damage. If we parry, we don't take any damage either. However, when we fight big boss monsters, which you think, hey, that's a perfect opportunity because it's a one-on-one fight, they often have attacks that can penetrate through our shield, and we take damage anyway. The only way to completely negate them is to parry them, and that can be very difficult depending on the attack. So really, all shield is good for is just fighting non-bosses in a very specific situation where it's just a one-on-one fight. And that's not going to happen very often. Almost all of our fights are going to be group fights like this. As you saw when we were fighting the looters earlier outside the dome, we're almost never going to be fighting humans or monsters by themselves. Even some of the stronger boss monsters we're going to be fighting in groups. So the opportunity to use the shield and not get completely overwhelmed, it's not going to happen that often. But it will happen. There's a couple of enemies in particular that the shield is really good, better than the staff or better than the dagger and gun at dealing with them. And I'll point that out when the time comes. But for now, we're just trying to destroy all these creatures, get all the loot that's available to us, and focus mostly on just adventuring, finding out the dome, finding more about these things, why they're here, what they're doing, and getting all these really important chests. Even though we already had that. So that chest, we picked up the studded club earlier from that one chest in the back. That's another copy of that. We can either sell it or we can break it down for components. I'll probably sell it later. But for now, we're going to backtrack a little bit and jump down the other way and continue on. These things aren't really a threat, but as we continue on, we're going to be finding something much more dangerous, I assure you. Although this is a perfect... These guys are completely open staff attacks because they just die in one hit. We can really take advantage of the range. But you could fight them with any of the weapons. They are not meant to be a threat. They're just there to get us a lot of leather, get us some serum so we can start getting a little bit of a foothold for starting a bank account for all these different things we're going to be buying and upgrading later. Although they can be kind of evasive, as you see there. The important thing is that we are just getting in practice, getting a little bit more familiar. I love the environment in these domes. They pop up a few times, and I really like... One of my favorite things about this game is the way how they do environments, and the way how they put in all these really cool details, and just like the whole setting of the game. I am a huge fan. And there we go. Now, we are going to pick up... Here is the next part where we have to make a choice. We can either head further down into the gun tree, which is not a bad idea, or we can actually upgrade our poison attack so that way what we would want is to pick this up, which increases the duration, pick this up, which increases the chance, that increases the damage, and then we actually put another point. Anything that's a big circle like this, you can put 2 points into it. 1 point gives you the initial one on top. The second point lets you select the upgrade. And the upgrade that we would pick is the poisoned enemies either do 25% less damage or take 25% more damage because they have less armor. Both of these are really important. You can't go wrong with either. Or the other thing that we could do is start working on our Technomancy. And I honestly think that's what we're going to do because you can get some very powerful upgrades very quickly. So I'm going to put my first point into there, which then 20% increased immobilization means that whenever you see them like getting tased and just standing there with electricity arcing out of them, that's what they mean by immobilization. And then the next upgrade is going to make it even more powerful, and we're going to be putting more points in the future. Oh, and then so we picked up a talent point. And now this is the big kind of decision-making factor. There's two ways you can go. There's going to be a lot of chests coming up, and there's no reason not to put a point into traps and lockpicking, because that will give us access to a lot of the traps and the chests initially. But what will happen is if we put the point in here, we won't be getting as much awesome loot as if we put it in here, which is actually a really good reason just to go for the 3. If we go for 1 in traps instead, that'll let us get the chests earlier. But there's nothing stopping us from just waiting and unlocking all the chests later. Like there aren't going to be any exclusive chests that we're not going to have available to us now that wouldn't be available to us later. So we're going to be putting our next point into exploration to give us the full suite. We're at the highest possible search that we can be. And this is actually a great stopping point, because this next area, there's something really exciting that's going to happen. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I look forward to sharing more of this game with you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.